Hello and welcome to the shed. In today's video we're going to be flattening my workbench. One of the main reasons I want to do it today is when I was doing my milk paint trials with my pigments, I forgot to put something on my workbench, and so now I've got all of this pigment colour dirtying up my bench, and I noticed the dirty background is making it a little harder to film, so it's time to give it a flatten, and I thought I'd bring you along. Let's do a few passes over here and see what it's like. You don't necessarily have to use a straight edge when you're flattening a bench that you've been working on for a while. You can to find the high spots, but since your workbench generally gets quite dirty like mine is, and you'll see it when you come over here, the dirt where you remove it gives you a pretty good indication of where you need to remove material. So the workbench itself tells you what you need. Running our way along the surface. Now, one thing I do need, and I always like to do this, some candle wax, some paste wax, something to just allow it to slide the surface a little bit easier. Just reference this way across, because across the grain is always the easiest way to remove material. It's always the fastest way. And then you'll see me go on an angle, so this way, it's actually looking pretty flat everywhere apart from the very last board, which did slide down when I did the initial glue up. So, and up this top end, it's about the same. It's flat through most of it, apart from that very last board, or halfway through this board, and I don't tend to work right on that far side, so it's not too much of an issue for me. Most of my work is done here. This is my reference area. Not going to be able to see this very easily, but there is actually still a little bit of a dip just here on the workbench. For whatever reason, through from about here, it dips down about 3 millimeters, but only in this spot. If I angle across here, it's flat. If I angle across here, it's, well, it's not quite flat. It is flat to the outside edge of my vice jaw. Now, you might ask, well, why is it dipped down over there? I think I worked out what it is. I have one of these cast iron vices here. It's a big 9-inch one, I think it was. Yep. And so it's a big, hefty thing that weighs about 25-30 kilos. And the legs on my bench, just here, are held in here, just slipped into a loose tenon, and here slipped into a loose tenon. And so this whole area here has no support, and so I think the weight of this vise is just been pulling it down. For the most part, the rest of this is pretty flat from what I can see through here. There's little indiscrepancies. There's a little area here that's a little bit lower, and that was part of me making a mistake when I actually made the workbench. I tried to glue the entire thing up together instead of in 2 sections and then bring it together, and that's where I ran into a few issues. So there is one little low spot here. I need to advance this blade just a touch. For the most part, it's not too bad. There is still a drop off in this section just here. It's dropping off maybe a millimetre here. I'm not going to worry about that any further. It'll be something that I tackle when I flatten this again in a year, maybe 2. Depends how flat it goes, how quickly. Now, one last thing I want to do, because I'm going to apply a finish to this. If we do it right, you want to have some sort of finish on your workbench. So what I'm going to do is just grab some 240 grit sandpaper and just give this a quick sand over the surface, because I'm going to be putting some boiled linseed oil on here as the finish. I don't like to use anything with paste wax, anything that makes the surface slippery, because I don't want my workpieces sliding around. I want them grippy. So the linseed oil sort of treats the timber once it cures, but it doesn't make the surface super slick or anything. So you could put paste wax on there if you really want to, but that's why I'm only going to be putting a light coat of oil. As you can see, I'm not too worried about it. I just want it to rough up a little bit. I don't really need to spend ages doing this. I can just feel it slightly rough to the touch. I'm just doing a very light coating, as you can see here. I don't really want anything pulled up on the surface. I'm just going to apply it like this. Let that dry. Now, I'm probably going to leave this 12-24 hours to dry. And then I'll come and put a second coat on. If I notice any areas as I'm applying it right now that look a little dry and need a little bit more, I will come back and put that on there. As you can see, it gives this nice sort of glisten to the surface. Nice protective, and I like that ever so slight yellowing it gives this radiata pine. It pops and looks beautiful in my opinion. Some people probably disagree. Do sound off in the comments if you do. But I like this slight yellow colour. Now, why do I not wear gloves or use a rag? Well, I don't want the oil getting soaked up on anything. And I find that I can just feel where all the oil is, where it's applied, where it needs a little bit more with my fingertips. Which is one of the reasons I wanted to boil my own linseed oil. It's going to dry faster than raw linseed oil. And yeah, I just like the tactile feel of when I'm applying it to know whether I've got enough in one spot or not enough. And I can feel as I rub it across the surface where I can pull the excess oil, which I find if I wear gloves I just can't do that. So there you have it, folks. That's how I flatten my workbench. Now, obviously, the last thing to do is to wait for this oil to dry. I'm going to probably apply 1 coat of boiled linseed oil to this for the next 7 days, and then probably once a week that month after, and then just once a year sort of thing, or maybe once a month. I'll see what it looks like. It depends how dirty it ends up. Now, obviously, my workbench never stays clean. It always ends up being dirty because I actually use it, unlike a lot of the YouTubers you see on YouTube. They barely use their workbenches and they stay pristine and clean. So, do expect this to look dirty again, and I will obviously have to flatten it again, not only to clean it, but to also bring it back to flat. Now, obviously, I ran into a few issues with a little dip here that I just decided to leave in the end, but I did get rid of a lot of that little dip that was in the workbench here, which I wasn't expecting. I didn't have that last time, so that's something that's come on in the last little bit, and I think it has a lot to do with my cast iron vise here with these big heavy Jarrah jaws. I think there's just a little bit too much weight in this corner of the workbench, so I'm probably going to have to do something to try and strengthen that. Bear in mind, that vise under here is taking up nearly all the space under here, so if you can come up with some way of strengthening it, I'm all ears. Might have to look at some sort of angular bracing or something like that, so that'll be something that I come up with at a later date and bring you along as a video once it's done. If you like this video, please do like and subscribe down below. While you're down there, apart from all the other times I've asked you to comment on certain things down there, do sound off in the comments if there's anything else. If you'd like to see another great video such as the one you've seen here today, do check out the videos on screen now. Bye for now.